Alright. There are 2 more episodes in this Unexplained and Unexplored. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Unexplained and Unexplored. Bam! Got it right! So we've got episode 7 and episode 8 to get through. I have not pre-watched either of the two. And if you hear my cats, it's because they're stalking the birds. But, I have not watched either of these last 2. So I don't know what to expect, which, take that how you want. I am going to be doing the last 2 viewings in one go. Sorry about ya. There will be no costume change. And also the light is really getting to my eyes today, so we'll see. But I'm sure getting my blood pressure up while cusping on a migraine is not going to cause any problems. But anyway, so this is Unexplained and Unexplored, Season 1, Episode 7. It has something to do with Egypt, and I only know that because I did a sound check. And so let's get into this. As usual, it is sped up. So if you speed me up, which again, I highly recommend you do, you're gonna be, these guys are gonna be like, blah, 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 blah. Which is fine, because that's kind of what they do anyway.
Could a 150-year-old archaeological map and an Egyptian carving contain clues to how ancient Egypt rose to power? Following secret maps hidden in hieroglyphics.
We've got a scene showing us 25-day journey.
We will hunt for a lost civilization.
This could be the birthplace of pharaohs.
Exactly. Scour ancient temples.
This is absolutely magnificent.
And dive to the bottom of the Red Sea.
Oh my god.
Oh wow, this time they actually put on like actual diving equipment. Wow. Wow. They didn't just strip down and jump into the water like a couple of idiots.
Look at that thing.
As we journey into Ethiopia,
Absolutely breathtaking.
Again?
to uncover the truth behind Egypt's mysterious origins.
Okay, so they've already been to Ethiopia once looking for the Ark of the Covenant, and I gave them praise for that because it's unusual to see people searching for the Ark go to Ethiopia for a myriad of reasons that we're not getting into today. But clearly they were just doing double time there. So why are we doing this? Why are we doing the rise of the Egyptian culture? What's going on? And I'm very suspicious of that artifact that they showed us earlier. Yeah, I got a bad feeling about that one.
The pyramids, to the Sphinx, to King Tut. But perhaps the greatest mystery of all is how Egypt seemingly rises out of nowhere.
Egypt didn't seemingly rise out of nowhere. We're actually pretty aware of how Egypt rose because we have documentation for a lot of it. And there's this field. Oh, God, what is it called? Oh yeah, archaeology. It has an entire subfield called Egyptology. It's actually older than the field of archaeology itself, like the formal field of archaeology. Egyptology is kind of older than that. So we've been studying Egypt for a long time. Yeah, we kind of know how this shit works. This is going to be a fun episode. Brown people did a thing, you guys! They did a thing without white people. How? How did they manage?
To become the world's first superpower. Right, it's a question that's baffled archaeologists and explorers alike for centuries.
Egypt came to power around 3000 BC, and before long, they grew into a massive empire. While Europe was still using stone tools and hand axes, Egypt had writing, advanced irrigation, and the ability to construct breathtaking structures with precise mathematical alignments.
Must have been aliens.
So how did this advanced empire seemingly rise out of the sands?
You know, I will give them this. They haven't done the aliens thing on this show yet, but they have hinted several times at lost civilizations, like Atlantis. So I'm wondering if this isn't going to do the Atlantis thing, or just kind of like hint at the Atlantis thing. Either way, I'm kind of pissy, but whatever. Let's keep going.
So this is an archaeological survey map of Egypt that was first published in 1851.
This is a copy of said map.
It details all the biggest archaeological work that has been done in Egypt over the decades. Throughout the region, there's hundreds of unearthed archaeological sites. Archaeologists are scouring tombs and ancient cities, but they still can't seem to answer the question, how did Egypt become this massive?
Why are you looking at a map for this question? Why are you looking at a map from 1851 that hasn't been updated since? Why aren't you using a modern map? Why aren't you using modern LiDAR? Why aren't you talking to a professional? Hey, my woodpecker's back. Why aren't you talking to a professional Egyptologist? You know what? I even know a few. I could hook you up. Or at least attempt to. Because if I were them, I wouldn't want to talk to you either.
Superpower. It's a great question. I think, really the key to unlocking the mysterious origins of ancient Egypt probably lies with its first rulers, the pharaohs.
The early pharaohs of ancient Egypt, such as Gernandt, are typically credited with the empire's rise to power. But recently, new archaeological evidence has uncovered a much earlier period of Egyptian history known as Dynasty Zero. This lost period of time from 3200 to 3000 BC could be the key to uncovering the true origins of this ancient empire.
What are you getting at with this true origins thing? Like, why are we using this language, this true origins? The only people who question the origin of Egypt are either Lost Tribes people, Ancient Aliens people, or Atlanteus people. Those are the only people that question the true origins of Egypt. So, which woo camp are you guys gonna throw into?
These are essentially artifacts that were found depicting pharaohs from Dynasty Zero. So this stone carving depicts Meagher ruling Egypt. The interesting thing about this artifact is that it's dated around 100 years before Egypt was believed to even exist. Now, these pharaohs are said to rule from an ancient capital.
How was it dated to 100 years before Egypt even existed? You can't date stone. So what were you using to date that?
Which, for a long time, nobody... Magnificent, huh? Can you imagine coming here thousands of years ago when it was in its absolute prime?
We secured a meeting with one of the most renowned experts on ancient Egypt in the world, who claims to have key information that can help guide our search.
I cannot wait to see who this person is.
Mohammed!
Hey!
How are you? Great to see you.
See you too.
Thanks for meeting us here.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Dr. Moltmann Said is an Egyptologist who has spent his career studying Egypt's early pharaohs.
We're really on a deep hunt.
I have no idea who this guy is. So. It's not like the Mayan episode.
To find the origins of Egypt, and in particular, how do we know that the first pharaohs were here?
Just big questions.
Wine, they drank beer, so it's coming from elsewhere. This wine.
Yeah.
Is ivory something that's found in Egypt?
No.
No. So ivory's not found in Egypt.
Yes.
Wine's not something known to have been drank in Egypt. It's a clue that whoever was buried here might have come from somewhere else.
Okay. No, that's not what that means, even a little bit. I don't understand why people can't get their heads wrapped around the concept of trade. Like, why do all of these shows try to portray civilizations as if they live inside vacuums and never interact with anyone outside of their own borders? We, archaeologists, know that's patently untrue. The fact that he's being buried with items that are not from the area means that there was a trade system going on and these were considered valuable items. You're burying a king. You're going to put valuable grave goods in the grave with the king. It's how you show status after death. It's... I already hate this episode.
Yeah, and this is make some of the scholars say that the kings of Zero Dynasty is coming from outside of Egypt.
This is an intriguing possibility. Maybe Egypt has its origins in a foreign land. Could the Scorpion King or his ancestors have come from a lost...
If you're... Okay. We're never making it through this episode. If you're studying the beginning of a place and you're looking at the first person for that new place, in this case, Egypt didn't exist yet, according to you. So yeah, the first king is gonna come from outside of Egypt because Egypt doesn't exist yet, according to you. That's what the show is saying, and then conveniently forgetting that they just said.
Civilization that gave rise to ancient Egypt.
That gave rise to Egypt, which would mean it didn't exist yet.
What is this place that people...
So what they are alluding at here is this quote-unquote land of the gods may be a mythical place, and therefore it is a place outside of time. So we are going with... We've narrowed it down now to... they're either going to do an Atlantean lost civilization sort of angle, or we're going to get a very soft feed of aliens. I'm interested to see which.
I think that's our next stop.
It certainly is.
There's convincing evidence that the first pharaohs were not native to Egypt, and that
The first pharaohs couldn't be native to Egypt because, as you have stated in this show a few times now, Egypt didn't exist yet. There's no Egypt to be native from.
They may have originated in a place. Hatshepsut was a powerful female pharaoh who ruled during Egypt's 18th dynasty. During her reign, she was obsessed with the origins of Egypt. Her temple is a monument to her life's work. Could it hold clues to the truth behind the land of the gods, the mythical location that ancient Egypt originated from?
Meredith, sorry we're late.
No problem.
There's a lot of traffic in the Valley of the Kings.
I can imagine.
Emiliano, great to meet
Hi,
you.
Meredith. Nice to meet you
Thanks.
finally.
Justin.
Hi, Justin. It's good to see you.
Meredith Brand is an archaeologist and professor at the American University in Cairo. She spent the last decade researching the inscriptions on Hatshepsut's temple.
So your temple is looking fantastic.
I know. It's gorgeous, huh?
You cleaned it up for us before we
I
got
did. I
back?
was very busy. Sleeping away.
So we've really been on this hunt to find kind of a pre-civilization of Egypt, kind of a land of the ancestors, or as we've been told, kind of a land of the gods.
Hand of the gods, yes.
We're hoping there's some clues in Hatshepsut's temple.
Maybe we come to the right place.
You came to the right place, guys. You really did. Come on, I'll show you guys.
Check it out.
This temple is considered one of the most impressive sites in Egypt.
Nice.
It was built out of limestone and adorned with elaborate hieroglyphics. Today,
Gee, like most temples.
ancient Egyptians, these images were more than just decorative pictures. They were maps that documented their history and travels.
They're not maps. They're not. They're not maps. I know that that's the shtick for this show, is that everything is a map, but the hieroglyphics and the artwork in Egyptian temples are words and stories and history. I guess in a metaphysical alliteration sense, that is a map, but these are not point A, point B maps. That's not what these are. Why would you do that? Why would you put a map someplace that doesn't move? Anyway, it doesn't matter because these aren't maps. And this ham-fisted map shit that the show is insisting upon does not work. Stop it.
Is it possible these carvings hold the truth behind Egypt's mysterious origins?
We were very fortunate to get special permission to go behind the barrier to take a close-up look at these scenes.
Usually we're doing this without permission, so this is fantastic.
Great.
Wow, these are beautiful. Amongst the thousands of carvings, hieroglyphics, and ancient paintings, there is one particular section that speaks of a special expedition to a far-off land, overseen by Hatshepsut herself.
This is where Hatshepsut writes about this expedition she took to a mysterious land. Hatshepsut took great care to make sure she recorded where she was going. And right here, we have the hieroglyphs of the name of this land. You see that rectangle?
The bunny rabbit music?
And then the bunny rabbit and the water sign and these 3 semicircles. Those are supposed to be hills of foreign lands. Together, that spells out Punt, the land of the gods.
Really?
I mean, that's cool. Yes, hieroglyphics are neat. I like this woman. She clearly knows what she's talking about. I would love to go behind the barrier. If these guys touch these fucking walls, I'm gonna lose my shit. But, we already know the land of the gods exists. We already know that the land of the gods has been talked about we know that the land of the gods is talked about by the Egyptians as their origin spot. Anyway.
Yes,
So Punt is the land of the gods?
exactly.
So it's telling you about a real place.
Yes, that's what
That
her
is a
inscriptions tell us.
very
It's a real
detailed
place,
rabbit.
and she sent an expedition there.
This is our biggest discovery yet. The land of the gods was a real place called Punt. Could this be where the earliest pharaohs came from?
The word Punt means land of the gods. Why? We're never making it through this episode. I gotta let it go. Let it go. Shake it off. Shake it off.
It was the ancient homeland responsible for Egypt's great rise to power.
It's a real place. This is the proof right here. Now we need to find out exactly where Punt is.
First of all, we've got these 5 boats.
Those look like some big boats.
And look at how many people are on these. These are clearly meant for long expeditions.
Yes.
But what are these details under here?
Well, this is the aquatic life they recorded when they went to Punt.
Okay.
A group of marine biologists studied these inscriptions and these fish and said that they are from the Red Sea.
Okay. Is there any more details about the scope of the expedition itself?
Some historians have looked at the release and they've said this could have been a 25-day journey.
Interesting. This is exactly the kind of evidence we've been looking for. There's essentially a map of the expedition itself, a pictorial representation of what the expedition would have seen on their journey. And because of this map, we can narrow our search for Punt to a voyage of 25 days on the Red Sea.
Still not a map. It's still a story. It's still history. Still not a map. Also, the Red Sea and Egypt, there's, as far as I understand, there's not that big of a distance. Okay, 25 days isn't that long for a time period where they didn't have cars or trains. It looks like they did most of it on the sea. So they're probably, are they going up the Nile? Have we said that yet? No, they're going to the Red Sea. The Red Sea's not connected to the Nile, so they're on the, I don't know, anyway.
Here, we've got the root of one of the trees that Shepsut brought back from Punt.
Oh, neat.
That's amazing.
This is the tree from the land of the gods, here in front of the temple.
The question is, where the hell did this tree come from?
If we figure out where she left from, we can estimate using their nautical technology at the time where 25 days could have taken them.
I guess what we need is just an ancient map of the region.
You don't need an ancient map of the region. You just need to know the technology that was available to her at the time, which you know because of the relief, the map on the wall. And they've already said that it's somewhere around the Red Sea. You could narrow it down. Why are you doing this the most difficult and not even the most reliable way possible?
Why not use the most ancient Egyptian map we have, the Turin Papyrus? The Turin Papyrus map was created over 3,000 years ago to help mine and transport natural resources like gold in the area.
Wadi Hammamet is still being used today. I mean, it's a road we could literally retrace if we wanted to. We could be using the Turin Papyrus to find land of Punt.
That's a great idea.
I'm pretty sure no one's ever done this before. Because I'm pretty sure you're the only two people who have ever been able to put A and B together. If my sarcasm is not apparent enough for you, I'm sorry.
This is incredible. After traveling 70 miles along Wadi Hammamet through the unforgiving Egyptian desert, we're still 20 miles from the Red Sea.
Well, here's the thing. The papyrus ends here. We followed Wadi Hammamet as far as the papyrus takes us. If we follow Wadi Hammamet to the end of the road, it takes us to Qasir.
Qasir.
It looks like a port town.
If Wadi Hammamet was such a strategic road, I mean, it would make sense that at the end of it would be a very important port.
Okay. So, this map is so ancient. And I'm not saying the map isn't ancient. I'm just like, this road is so mysterious that it's paved. They paved this ancient road, which means they've been using this ancient road forever. They're driving on the road. I want to point this out to you.
There's only one way to find out. Straight ahead.
I'm not saying that the road isn't ancient, okay? It's a very well-known fact, especially, like, you know, you can find millions of roads. Millions? Do we have millions of roads? Anyway, you can find roads all over America that are, or were once, old trade routes. Some of them are actually even, I would consider ancient because they were trade routes that were shown to Europeans by Native Americans. So these are trade routes that were being used pre-contact. So these are old trade routes, okay, or just old roads, for example. And a lot of these roads, you know, as time progressed, they stayed important roads, and so they were cared for and they were upgraded and they are paved. There are lots of old paved roads around America that used to be pre-contact or post or immediately post-contact roads. So the fact that this ancient road, because it is an ancient road, I'm not saying it's not, but it's paved, which means this ancient road, here's my thing, is on a modern day map. They didn't need this ancient papyri map to figure this out, because they didn't even have a copy of it. They were using a website, which means it's been documented, it's been studied, and it's up there for people to look at, which means I could probably Google it and line it up with Google Maps or Google Earth. These two aren't doing anything that a normal person could do with basic internet. This show is complete malarkey. And they just got told that the Punt is along the coast of the Red Sea. They didn't even need to do this weird recreating the trade route that Hapshet. God damn it. They didn't need to recreate this ancient expedition. They just did it to fill time. They could have just gone from where they were, from the temple, all the way to the Red Sea and started searching around the coast of the Red Sea. Also, I am willing to put actual money down saying that they are literally just copying someone else's research or study or adventure here and pretending like it's never been done before when there's no way in hell it hasn't. We've known about Punt forever, apparently, because otherwise, how would she know? I'm just saying. This whole Land of the Gods thing is probably not that weird.
We've identified that the town of Kocurek...
You haven't identified anything.
Wow, look at that. But is there any evidence that this was once an ancient Egyptian port?
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Marion Thames de Mornay is an archaeological scientist and Egyptologist who has extensive knowledge on ancient ports and trade routes.
Basically, we're on the hunt for where a launching pad for expedition to the land of Punt could have been. So we're wondering, is there any evidence that this was an ancient port used by the ancient Egyptians?
Well, I think you've come to the right location, and I'll
great.
show you something. Come follow me, please.
Thank you.
No worries.
Yeah. Look at that. This is cool.
Fantastic, isn't it?
This is awesome.
This is the remains of the ancient site of Myos Hormos. This harbor was used during the time of Augustus, so the first emperor of Rome. Up to 150 boats would sail from Myos Hormos every year to go and trade exotic goods with China and India.
We're looking for evidence of an even more ancient expedition.
Could the Egyptians have been using it before the Greeks came?
Absolutely. In ancient times, it was very common to use architectural material that was already there in place to build on top of bigger, more grandiose structures. So a lot of archaeologists do believe that ancient Egyptians used the port of Myos Hormos to sail off to the land of Punt.
Wow, that's unbelievable, man.
It would have been actually a very dangerous trip. They would have probably stuck to the coast all the way down to the land of Punt. But after the long voyages, the ships would have been loaded with gold, ivory, incense trees, and they would have had ceramic amphora, which would have been used to store these exotic goods.
Amphora pots were common in ancient Egypt to transport goods long distances. They were like the shipping boxes of their time. Egypt's amphora pots would have varied in size, from a few inches to 4 feet tall.
Why is there no evidence of the ancient Egyptians here?
We're thinking of thousands of years, so of course, if there was pharaonic evidence here, it could have been lost, it could have been reused.
So you can't expect ancient Egyptian amphora to just be sitting here waiting for us to find it.
No. In time, we lose evidence.
I guess it's understandable that they haven't found Egyptian amphora here, but there's nothing to say that they're not out in the Red Sea. They would have had broken ones they would have been throwing overboard. Maybe there were some shipwrecks close by. Who knows what the Red Sea is littered with? I think we get on a boat, get some scuba gear, and see what we find.
I think I'm going to leave her entire section in because she has been, hands down, one of the most informative people that they've talked to. And I don't mean that in a critical way to any of the other professors and doctors they've spoken to. But everything she just got done saying is shit I've been saying. So probably going to leave her entire section in.
We're heading just 2 miles off the coast, from where this ancient Egyptian port may have once sat.
You just left from the ancient Egyptian port. How are you going to an ancient... Do you mean that you're leaving the ancient Egyptian port that you were in and you're going to try to find the ancient Egyptian port of Punt? Which I'm almost positive we already know where it is. I mean, that's going to be the big reveal here.
That's nice and clear.
Perfect diving day.
If these waters were used as an ancient Egyptian port...
And again, why? Why are we doing this? Please don't forget, we don't have a reason to be doing this.
It's entirely possible that goods from Punt that fell overboard could remain untouched and preserved underwater.
Hey guys, you hear me?
Oh.
I'm in 40 meters now. I think I get something and I'm coming up. Prepare hot chocolate for me, please.
Loud and clear there, buddy. Loud and clear.
Excellent.
I love that this dude wants hot chocolate when he gets out of.
Let's see what he's got. Come on, guys. Bring us some gold. Here we go. Hey.
Where's the footage of them preparing this man's hot chocolate? He has one freaking request. Hot chocolate. Where is it?
Welcome. This is where these great expeditions would have come out.
But now, we need to prove that these pots, known as amphora, which we found at the bottom of the Red Sea, were actually used during ancient Egyptian times.
You've already been told that that's true. You've literally been told that by, I think, 2 different archaeologists now. You already know this.
Hey, what's up? You're most welcome. Ahmed Sadiq here.
Nice
Great to meet you. Come in.
Ahmed Sadiq has spent years studying the lost civilization of Punt.
So myself and Emiliano have been following this trail to find out where the ancient land of Punt was. Which brought us to Kocurek, and we started to investigate the waters around that area.
We took a boat out into the Red Sea. We did some diving. We found plenty of evidence that this was an important nautical site, an important port. We even found what we think are some ancient amphora.
Yes.
So are we on the right track? Was this an entry and exit point for on the land of Punt?
Absolutely. Let me show you this. That's your port city, Kocurek. Okay. And between Safaga and Kocurek, you find Marsa Gawasis, which is kind of the epicenter of activities on your way for Punt.
So, Marsa-Gawasis, just a few miles away from where we're looking, is the real port used by ancient Egyptians to travel to Punt?
Yes. an international team of archaeologists excavated the site. They made the discoveries of physical evidence of the journey. We have ropes, we have sets of boxes, and we have amphorae, we have fragments of ships.
So, we already knew this. You didn't discover anything new. You probably could have just talked to this guy before all of this, and he could have told you all of this. You could have saved yourself some time and probably a considerable amount of money. And that man still did not get his hot cocoa. I am not happy about that. You give that man his hot cocoa, and you do it on camera, god damn it.
Telling us that these are thousands of years old.
Very upset about the hot cocoa.
Wow. Recently, archaeologists discovered human-made caves just 70 feet below the waters of Mersa that were filled with all sorts of nautical items, proving that ancient Egyptians likely launched long journeys on the Red Sea from this area.
Yep, that's what he just said. Good job. Good job in repeating everything he just said. Thanks.
Finding ropes, they're finding amphora, they're finding boxes. All this is ancient stuff.
You are literally just repeating verbatim what the expert just said.
But how does this link us to Punt?
It gets more interesting and more precise. Inscribed in sacred hieroglyphs on one of the vessels, it says, "The marvels of Punt, the wonderful things of Punt."
Am I getting this straight? These are boxes that are found in this port carrying goods from the period that we're looking at, and they are being stamped with a stamp that essentially says "Marvels of Punt."
Yes.
And this label says made in Punt.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Essentially,
You know Punt exists. You know it's a real place. You've literally been told this by an expert on camera. I don't even know where to go with this.
What it says, I like that how you qualify it.
This to me is like lights are going off.
This is an earth-shattering find.
So plotting every possible direction, that gives us a 1,000-mile radius as a search zone.
So here's our 1,000-mile search radius, but that's a massive area. We really need to narrow it down more. We know that we're bringing back ivory, gold, frankincense, and ebony, right?
Yeah.
What we could do is use a process of elimination to see what region had all of those resources at the same time.
So you're literally using ArcGIS to sit here and create an overlaying map that's going to show you, probably via layers, where the most likely overlaps are of your 3 trade goods that you have inside your 1,000-mile radius. You needed an ancient map for that?
okay, kind of like a Venn diagram.
Exactly.
A Venn diagram. Oh my god. 4 trade goods. Excuse me, 4 trade goods. You're gonna narrow it down pretty fucking quick because you've only got one spot for frankincense.
Ivory, gold, frankincense, and ebony are only found in very specific areas in our 1,000-mile search zone. So when you overlay where each of these natural resources existed, an X should mark the spot.
X never marks the spot.
So I take the ebony distribution map, overlay it over modern Africa map. Only a small part of it falls within our search zone. Looks at ivory.
You don't need to do this. You just need to look at the frankincense. It's the only one it's the one with the smallest area. Like, yeah, you need all 4 of those layers on there, but the only one you really need to concentrate on is the frankincense one, because if the frankincense doesn't overlap with the other 3, then you don't have the spot you're looking for. That's just basic logic.
You'll see the shared regions getting darker.
Okay.
Hello, Doctor.
Hey, how are you?
How are you? Emiliano.
Oh, Justin, nice to see you, Dr. Gaz.
Dr. Agazi Nagash is a professor and geoarchaeologist who spent decades excavating sites around Ethiopia, looking for answers about the prehistoric world and the lost land of Punt. We've been on a long journey all the way through Egypt. It's brought us here, and we've been in search of the land of Punt. Is there anything you can tell us that might help us find this ancient mystical place?
We are here in Yaha.
Okay.
And there is a very ancient temple. Then there is a clear connection between this temple and Punt.
Wow. Can we take a look?
Yeah.
I love that they're in unison. Wow! It's like Bill and Ted. This is Bill and Ted. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures around the world.
These are the oldest ruins in Ethiopia, and are believed to be the birthplace for all future civilizations in this area. But to this
Except I like Bill and Ted.
day, who lived here and why is still a mystery.
Oh, these are temples. There you go.
Wow. Time frame works, and we know this whole region is rich in the resources Egypt got from Punt. But what else about this particular site makes you think it could be part of ancient Punt?
Archaeological finds indicate that this belonged to a kingdom that was wealthy and powerful, and the connection with Punt is because of the trade routes. A lot of frankincense of Ethiopian origin have been found in archaeological contexts in Egypt. Yeah. And also, alabaster from Egypt has been found in a burial context here, showing us some kind of contact with Ethiopia.
That's very interesting. That's a big link.
It's called a trade route. Talked about it at the beginning of the episode.
The puzzle pieces are all fitting together.
There's a lot of elements here that are starting to add up to the possibility that this might have been ancient Punt, but we're looking for a massive ancient civilization. All we have is a temple. Why aren't there other temples, other structures?
Why are you looking for a massive civilization? What in any of these stories has alluded to a massive civilization? Why are you jumping to that conclusion? There's no one of any of these stories has told you about a massive civilization that existed before the Egyptians. They've just said that Punt is the land of the gods, and one of the other guys mentioned that that's where mythologically the Egyptians believe they came from. That doesn't mean there's a massive anything. It just means that this is the land of origins. There could have been like 3 people. You don't know.
Yeah, totally. Thanks, Doctor. Yeah.
Everything we've done thus far really has led us here.
Perhaps it did essentially get wiped off the map. But fortunately, its influence, its knowledge will always live on. Sure. For centuries, the truth behind...
We're done. Okay. Oh, God. Okay, so let me encapsulate this episode for you. We start off with the presumption that the Egyptians could not have created their own culture and that it had to come from an outside influence. We then decide that that outside influence is the city of Punt. We have apparently archaeological evidence and historical written evidence and all of the evidence we need to believe that a place called Punt existed at some point. So the existence of Punt is not really up for debate. So, because we've got these are just things that we were shown in this episode. We've got myths saying, well, that wasn't even a myth. So we have a historical document detailing expeditions to and from Punt. We have trade goods that were found stamped with the seal of Punt, I guess. It says these items from Punt. We have a tree that apparently is, or at least a fossilized, I don't even know if it was fossilized, but we have an old tree root that apparently is the remains of a tree that came from Punt. So the existence of Punt is not questioned. And the word Punt, apparently, these are just things that I learned watching this episode, the word Punt apparently does mean the land of the gods. So the existence of this place is not questioned. The activity of the Egyptians with this location is not in question. There seems to be a two-way trade happening. There's alabaster found in this Ethiopian area that correlates with the 4 major trade goods that were being traded with Punt. And again, there is alabaster from Egypt in the area. Very clear trade happening. It's along the Red Sea. We already know that they went to the Red Sea. Again, that was recorded and documented. So the exact location, like Punt on a map, like this dude's always going on about X marks the spot. Yeah, you're probably never going to find that exact teeny tiny location. But you don't need to. We've found the area that would have been Punt. What do you think? What do you think is going to be there? What are you looking for? What are you expecting to find? We have verified just from this evidence, and that's assuming everything that they showed us in the show is accurate, which anything that comes out of this show's mouth is suspect to me in general. But if I pretend that everything that this show just gave me was factually correct, we've found Punt, we know it's there, and we've known it's there. We, the world of archaeology, has known Punt is there for a while. And now these two dudes come along, do a bunch of crap that has nothing to do with anything, and they've decided that the reason they can't find Punt is because it's been swallowed up by an earthquake. Were you expecting to find a signpost that says, "Here lies Punt"? Like, how do you think the world works? But anyway. Pros and cons. The show, as usual, the only good thing I can really say about this show is representation in this show is pretty good. They are not afraid to have people from diverse backgrounds and diverse genders in the show. I appreciate that. I really do. They do tend to lean kind of heavily on female authorities. I also appreciate that. And that's about it. That's the end of the good. The rest of this is just dumb. It's just, they literally spent an entire section just repeating everything the man just told them. Everything. They just repeated the exact words the man said back to him. Why? They went diving in 2 different locations. They didn't find squat at either of them. And they still never gave that man his cocoa. Apparently it's time for my phone to go crazy. I don't know, I can sit here and rant about this episode for another 20 minutes probably, but I'm not going to. This episode was interesting, but not for the reasons that the show wanted it to be interesting. In general, it was a complete waste of time. They found nothing, they proved nothing. They just ran around in circles basically for a while and then ran back to Ethiopia, which we already know they were in because they did the Ark of the Covenant there. Anyway, I'm over it. I gotta go to the bathroom.